I'm the president's wife. You're just the wife of a regular employee. Which wife do you think should be listened to? Are you planning to go against me, the president's wife? Well, then, your husband is getting transferred.
Facing this woman who has been arrogant since our school days, my anger should be at its peak. Normally, it would be. However, the day she exercises her unreasonable power will never come. She hasn't realized it yet. At this point, she's just a pathetic woman. It's interesting to see how far she falls from grace. My name is Kate Miller. I'm 40 years old, and when I heard my favorite burger joint was in financial trouble, I couldn't help but run to the nearest location to buy something. As a consumer, I thought I could support them by buying something. However, there was a company I once decided I couldn't support anymore. It was my husband's workplace. When my husband, John, was in his 30s, the company's president retired, and the founder's son, Richard Anderson, took over. John said the new president was a good leader who cared about his employees, but he was indeed a good leader, but there was a problem with the people around him. It happened during a company retreat. Richard said that employees could bring their families, so I went along with my husband. I hadn't traveled with my husband since our honeymoon. The destination was Sonoma for the hot springs. I was excited the whole time, but the moment we arrived, I regretted coming.
Nice to meet you. I'm Hilary, the president's wife. Oh?
The woman who greeted me with a smile and extended her hand for a handshake was a classmate from high school. Hilary, right? It's Hilary, isn't it? Wait, I'm not mistaken, am I? I kept asking myself in my head, completely confused, and didn't even take her hand.
Kate! It's been so long. Oh my gosh, you got married.
Hi, it's been a while, Ms. Black.
Come on, stop that. That's my maiden name. It's Anderson now.
Oh, right, Mrs. Anderson.
Don't be so formal, just call me Hilary.
I've never called her by her first name. Because back in high school, she ordered everyone to address her as Princess Hilary. I absolutely hated her back in high school. In fact, I don't think there were many who liked her in the class. She was disliked by almost everyone except for the girls who were part of her clique, and people often talked behind her back, calling her a real piece of work. Hilary was the daughter of a local dress shop owner. Her princess status wasn't that impressive. At the time, fewer people were wearing formal dresses, so I heard the business was starting to struggle a bit. Her parents, aside from wearing nice clothes and driving a fancy car, were just ordinary folks who shopped for sale items at the local supermarket. However, her attitude was exactly that of a spoiled princess. For starters, she didn't do anything for herself. She would have the smart boys who liked her or the quiet, top-performing girls show her their homework, and she'd push her chores onto the more timid students. Her biggest problem was her habit of coveting other people's things. Hair clips, keychains, small accessories, no matter what it was, if Hilary liked it, she'd buy the same thing the next day and copy it. She'd come over and say,
Are you copying me? That's really annoying, so stop it.
If anyone tried to argue, a scary school friend from another school would ambush them in a deserted spot to say not to give her a hard time. Everyone wanted to avoid trouble, so if she liked something, they'd just give it up. She did whatever she wanted with the girls, but she acted sweet around boys and teachers, which made her popular with them. On top of that, the wife of the head of our grade was a regular customer at her family's dress shop, so her misdeeds were quickly swept under the rug. I wasn't an exception. She accused me of copying her because of a keychain I liked. As a new student in the same class as her, I naively responded that I had it first. For defying the princess, I was immediately summoned by the scary school friend. After that, I tried to keep my distance from her as much as possible, but since we were in the same class, I couldn't completely avoid her. When we ended up sitting next to each other, she would push the chores onto me, and if we were sharing them together, she wouldn't do any of the work. I had many such Hilary-related misfortunes. The biggest misfortune happened in our second year of high school. Once again, I was unfortunate enough to be in the same class as Hilary. I was confessed to by a somewhat popular boy from the class next door, and we started dating. However, the day after we started dating, Hilary suddenly declared that she likes him and confessed to him. Apparently, she really did like him, but who does that when the guy is already dating someone else? Everyone was pretty shocked. And how did the confession turn out? There was no way I could compete with Hilary, who confessed to him in a secluded spot, backed by her scary school friend. Therefore, I ended up breaking up with him, while Hilary, backed by her school friend's intimidation, received the perfect answer from the frightened guy.
I'll break up with her and date you.
I didn't care much since I started to dislike the guy who betrayed me, but I was a bit hurt at the time and even developed a distrust of men. In our third year, I was finally in a different class from Hilary, and I had no further interactions with her. Never did I imagine she'd become not just a wife of my husband's boss, but the president's wife. Concealing my discomfort, I gave a brief greeting and then walked away from the scene. It was during the evening banquet. Hilary suggested,
The men are already drunk, so why don't we have a little gathering with just us women?
I didn't want to go, but I couldn't outright refuse an invitation from the boss's wife. Resigned to my fate, I decided to follow her to the lounge adjacent to the inn.
Kate, you were pretty cute back in school, but you've become even more beautiful.
There's no way she genuinely thinks I've become more beautiful when I've gained so much weight since our school days. She's just waiting for me to say,
No way, Hilary, you're the one who's still beautiful like before.
That's one thing that hasn't changed about her.
Hilary, you've also become really beautiful.
Oh, stop it. That's not true at all. I've gotten older and gained a bit of weight. And after having kids, my face has aged too.
How I wanted to say that she really knows herself well. However, she's the president's wife. Telling the truth here is absolutely out of the question. To avoid causing any trouble for my husband, I decided to stick to flattering her.
Kate, you sure ended up with a rather, let's say, average husband.
What?
Average? How rude. She seemed pleased that I reacted with an irritated tone, a smirk curling at the corners of her mouth. She has a natural talent for annoying people with just a look.
I mean, he's not particularly wealthy, and he's not particularly handsome, right? So why did you choose him?
Marriage isn't about looks or money, you know. It's about feeling comfortable with someone.
I happen to find a husband who has both, but I guess fate does play a role, you see? He's kind, he treats me well, and people often envy me. He's got his flaws at home, though.
She's trying to get me to say something like,
Wow, I'm so jealous.
After she insulted my husband, I no longer felt like playing along. I just said,
Good for you.
And quietly sipped my martini, while a slightly irritated vibe began to emanate from her beside me.
By the way, Kate, any kids?
What? Oh, not yet.
What? You should have kids as soon as possible. I left mine with my mother-in-law today, but we have two. They're just so adorable. I'd love for you to meet them. So, Kate, maybe, could it be that things are not happening in the bedroom?
Do I really have to talk about that with someone I'm not even close to? Despite the seemingly serious tone of her voice, her face remained smug.
It's just normal. Anyway, I've had too much to drink, so I'm heading back to my room.
Oh, I see.
At the mention of returning to my room, her demeanor instantly changed. She's probably thinking,
Listen to more of my bragging.
but even I don't have the mental fortitude to stay calm after hearing so many rude remarks.
Let's settle the bill. Oh. Sorry, Kate, I think I forgot my wallet.
What?
I was stunned as she said,
I'm sorry, but could you cover me this time?
there's no way she would invite someone out and then forget to bring her wallet. Her drawstring pouch, which she was using as a bag, looked like it was stuffed full of something. So if she didn't have her wallet, what on earth was in there?
You're kidding, right? You do have your wallet, don't you?
I really don't. I totally forgot it, and it'd be awkward to call my husband over since he's probably having fun. So, could you please cover for me?
The way she subtly hinted at the president's presence made her even more annoying. I've heard he is a nice guy, but I've only just exchanged greetings with him today. If he showed up here, it might make things even more complicated. Suppressing my overwhelming desire to complain, I reluctantly paid the entire tab. In the end, Hilary never reimbursed me for the drinks during the trip. On top of that, she made sure to avoid getting too close to me, clearly keeping her distance. Thus, what was supposed to be a relaxing trip with John ended up being anything but, leaving only unpleasant memories. 2 months later, it happened. The doorbell rang, and when I peeked the peephole, there was Hilary standing there.
Kate? Could you open the door?
Hilary smiled. Geez. How does she know where I live? What's she doing coming to my house? She's not here to return the money, is she? I was bewildered, but I couldn't just ignore her, so I opened the door.
What's up, Hilary?
Sorry to bother you, but I just moved into the apartment diagonally across the hall, so I thought I'd come say hi.
What? You moved?
Yes. My husband's been a bit selfish, so I thought I'd teach him a lesson by living separately for a while.
With that, she revealed that she had found our address from the Christmas card John had sent to Richard last year. She then searched for a vacant apartment in this building, thinking that having me nearby would be convenient for her. She moved here fully intending to rely on me. How incredibly annoying. Frozen in shock, I barely registered John stumbling up behind me, his voice groggy with sleep.
Kate, what's happening?
The moment he saw Hilary, he exclaimed,
Whoa,
in surprise, and apologized.
sorry, I'm not dressed properly.
Oh, your husband's here too. Well, it is Sunday.
She said with a laugh. Honestly, I didn't want to see her face on a Sunday morning, but I kept that thought to myself.
Oh. By the way, could you do me a favor and take care of this little one today? I need to go out, so could you watch her?
What?
Ignoring my obvious displeasure, she cheerfully handed over the young child she had brought along, telling her,
Be a good girl now. I'll leave you the apartment key. I'll be back around evening. Please make dinner. I'd prefer something nice.
No, I'm not doing it.
Do you understand your position?
Excuse me?
The wife of an employee is like a servant to our family. You can live comfortably because we allow it. Taking care of the house and kids is the least you can do.
You better stop this. Things aren't like they were before.
How dare you speak to me like that? If you're planning to defy me, the president's wife, then your husband will be transferred. Are you ready for that?
oh boy. Here it comes. That same old bad habit of Princess Hilary, always trying to get her way whenever something doesn't go as planned. I flipped the switch, one that I couldn't turn back off. I didn't care anymore.
All right then, Go ahead and arrange the transfer. Do whatever you want.
Wait, a transfer?
Hilary looked at John, who was now staring blankly, and then she gave a triumphant smile.
Don't act tough. If you're going to apologize, now's the time.
She stood there, arms crossed and wearing a smug expression, clearly waiting for an apology. John also looked at me, seemingly wanting to say something, so I silently mouthed,
Trust me. I'm not planning to apologize, but if you're serious about the transfer, I'd like to hear it directly from the president right now.
What?
Obviously. You may be the president's wife, but you're not an executive or anything, so saying transfer him isn't even an official order.
Hilary frowned but reluctantly called Richard, looking displeased.
Hey, honey? Sorry, but could you come to my new place? I know. I'm sorry, but please. Just come.
Sensing some tension between them, we decided to wait for him to arrive. He showed up quickly, exclaiming,
Kate, Hilary, what's going on all of a sudden?
My apologies, Richard.
John said, so I followed suit.
Richard, just a moment ago, your wife told me that the wife of an employee is like a servant to our family, so it's only natural that I should take care of the kids and do the housework for free.
What?
His face darkened as he glared at Hilary.
And when I refused, she threatened to have my husband transferred. So, I'd like to go ahead with the transfer, but I wanted to hear it directly from you, which is why I had the audacity to ask you to come here.
He sighed deeply and then said,
I'm so sorry about all this.
Hilary, shocked, raised her voice.
Wait, why are you apologizing?
Hilary, did you repay the money you had her pay during the company retreat?
What are you talking about?
She was clearly pretending not to remember, refusing to meet my eyes as she turned away.
You didn't, did you? Richard paid me back.
At my words, Hilary blurted out.
What? When did that happen?
During the company retreat, my husband mentioned that Richard had confided in him. He was worried about their marriage and was asking how they could have a good relationship like ours.
Hilary and Richard's relationship had been deteriorating for years, and it seemed that they were only avoiding divorce for the sake of their children. The reason behind this was Hilary's selfish behavior at home. Especially after Richard became the president, it got much worse. She would demand that he skip work to spend time with the family or buy her bags, among other things. Even when he scolded her, she never seemed to understand what she was doing wrong. As a result, their relationship deteriorated day by day, and during the company retreat, Richard ended up venting to John about Hilary. Richard had mentioned that they were considering separation, but I never imagined Hilary would actually move near my house. Unbelievable.
After the trip, I invited Richard over to our place. That's when he repaid the money. I told Richard everything about what you said to me during the trip, as well as things from the past. It seemed he was already well aware of your true nature. Considering what I said, Richard was already contemplating divorce at that time.
Divorce.
Hilary was at a loss for words as she stared at Richard. He met her gaze directly.
You probably thought that since I didn't want a divorce, you could say whatever you wanted to the wives of my employees, and they'd have to listen, didn't you?
She remained silent.
It's not that I didn't want to divorce you, but I was only concerned about our children. You threw a fit and left, saying you wanted a separation. But if you hadn't, I would have suggested it myself. Besides, you might have thought you could do whatever you wanted with my name and authority, but I won't allow that. You may be my wife, but you're not an employee or anything. Stay out of company matters.
Richard's stern words prompted her to raise her voice in response.
You're always like this. Take care of the employees. I work for the employees. But you barely spend any time with me, and you don't let me enjoy any luxuries. What's the point of being the president? I married you because you were going to be the next president, but you never prioritize me. If I had known, I wouldn't have married.
I interrupted Hilary's one-woman show.
I don't know what your intentions were when you married Richard, and I don't care, but saying things like that in front of your child is just the lowest.
As I said this, her expression changed, and she looked down. Her child, clinging to the hem of her skirt, was trembling with a face on the verge of tears.
Oh.
As she reached out to touch her child, Richard gently lifted the child into his arms.
I wanted to give it another try if you were willing to change. But it turns out all you wanted was the title of president's wife.
That's not.
She hesitated, seemingly mindful of her child's presence.
You've always been like this, haven't you? You aim to impress school friends, teachers, and others to earn the title of model student. And now that you're the president's wife, you want to be the queen who controls the wives of the employees? You probably thought that because we're old classmates and you're the president's wife, you could still make me do whatever you wanted, but I'm not the same person I was back then.
Richard quietly nodded in agreement with my words.
Anyway, there's no way John is getting transferred. So don't worry about that, Kate.
Oh, so the transfer isn't happening after all?
What?
Hilary looked at us in confusion as Richard and I exchanged remarks. John asked Richard,
How finalized is that plan anyway?
There's nothing finalized. It's still in the planning stage. It was the former president's dream, so we'll make it happen someday. But now isn't the right time.
I was really surprised when your wife mentioned the transfer.
I was surprised too. I figured it was just a misunderstanding.
Sorry about that. It seems my wife got the wrong idea.
John, Richard, and I laughed together. Hilary desperately tried to interject, asking,
What are you talking about?
Hilary, this company doesn't even have a headquarters, let alone a place to transfer to.
What do you mean? I saw the pamphlet for the Santa Clara branch.
That branch doesn't exist. My father created that pamphlet a few years ago just for an April Fool's joke.
What do you mean?
He had a playful side. Back then, he pulled a prank on each employee, offering them a fake promotion as the head of the new branch. He even had enough pamphlets printed to convince everyone.
Hearing this, John chimed in with a distant look.
Yeah, we all got fooled by that. The office looks so nice. I actually wanted to transfer there.
Hilary was left speechless, only managing a stunned.
Huh?
Richard continued.
So Kate realized that Hilary was mistaken because she saw that pamphlet too, right?
John laughed and explained.
I showed it to her the following year, planning to trick her on April Fool's Day.
Besides, there's no way I'd send an employee away just because Hilary ordered it. Don't ever use my authority to bother the families of my employees.
I'm sorry.
Hilary then turned to us and apologized. Given the ultimatum to either divorce or move out, Hilary chose to leave the apartment and returned to her parents' home. Richard used the apartment during the remaining lease period. Richard had hoped that Hilary might cool down and that they could continue their relationship without divorcing. However, her parents showed up at his place, furious, saying,
Are you planning to abandon our daughter?
Hilary likely thought that if her parents intervened, Richard would back down and avoid the divorce. She was gravely mistaken. In the end, it was this very incident that led Richard to decide on the divorce. They had a lengthy battle over custody, but in the end, Hilary threw in the towel, saying,
This is too much trouble. I don't want to be stuck with kids anyway. I don't need them.
Thus, Richard ended up taking care of their 2 children. As for us, we welcomed a child about a year after that whole ordeal. Our child now attends the same elementary school as the Richards' children, and we've maintained a close relationship with his family. On weekends, we have barbecues, let the kids play in the jungle gym, and so on. It's almost like we've expanded our family, and our days are lively and full of joy. We found a nice house nearby and plan to move in next year. As the kids grow older, you start to worry about things like whether the noise bothers the neighbors, you know? Richard often invites us over, but I feel bad always being the guest, so once the new house is ready, I plan to invite them over for a party to thank them for everything. If Richard had continued his marriage with Hilary, I probably would have kept facing all sorts of trouble. I'm really glad he has a good sense of judgment. John's hard work has been recognized, and while promotions aren't common in his company, his salary has increased. We're still no match for the big corporations, and the pay raise means higher taxes and social security costs, but it's nice to see his efforts rewarded. From now on, I want to focus on the positives rather than the negatives, and live a bright, fun, and forward-looking life with my family. Life is just getting started. So why not enjoy it?